You're listening to The Black Woman in the Corner Office, the podcast for women who lead, influence, and carry a whole lot more than what shows up in their title. I'm your host, Dr. Ebony Stone, and each week we talk leadership, power, community, and what it really takes to rise without losing yourself. If this conversation resonates, go ahead and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hello, and welcome to the Black Woman in the Corner Office. I'm your host, Dr. Ebony Stone, and as I always say, I have a phenomenal guest today that you guys get to meet. But when I tell you that this guest is all in my wheelhouse, talking about work-life conflict and high-functioning, high-performing women in industries that require, quite frankly, quite a bit. I am so excited for this conversation. So I am going to go ahead and do the formal introduction of Dr. Takisha Robinson, and then I'm going to let her introduce herself. So according to the bio, Dr. Takisha Robinson is a clinical operations executive, a leadership researcher, and educator with over a decade of experience leading clinical trial operations across biotech and pharmaceutical organizations. Her doctoral research explores how transformational leadership can reduce work-family conflict and improve retention among executive-level women in the pharmaceutical industry. Through her work, she is helping reshape the conversation about leadership, career sustainability, and success for women in demanding professions. Welcome, Dr. Takisha. How are you?
I am well. Thank you.
Good. So listen, I'm going to try really hard not to just nerd out and all the research stuff, right, for our audience, but I really could. Dr. Takisha and I had a great conversation before this. So why don't we do this to get started? So I read the official bio. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where your career started, and what your journey has looked like?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, as mentioned, I am an executive, leadership executive, a doctoral graduate, a wife, a mother. And, in those roles, it really forced me to confront something deeply. And I couldn't live on survival mode and it called and call it success. So, what really forced me is to find a new way of surviving. And that's actually where integration became necessary for me, which is how I birthed the Mom Integration Playbook. And so it wasn't because I had it all figured out. It actually was created because I was doing what many high achieving mothers do, right? Succeeding professionally while silently burning out. And I realized I didn't need better time management. I needed a different framework, a different approach. And so earlier in my career, how I actually got started is in research is at the time, I was a consultant for the American College of Surgeons Commission on Cancer. And I traveled across the United States and met with the leadership teams for cancer programs. So these were all the executives and walked them through their compliance standards. So many of the cancer programs were going up for renewal for their accreditation. And so I came in and assisted with the operational framework of any quality issues or whatnot. And in that moment is actually where I identified there was a section for clinical trials. And at the time, the cancer programs, I believe back in 2000, you have to have about 2% of your patients and enrolled in a clinical trial. Knew nothing about research, knew nothing about clinical trials, and decided that I really needed to research further as someone told me this would be an industry you may be interested in. So as I did my homework, did my research, and continued to travel to different cancer programs within the hospital institutions, I saw a pattern. And the pattern was I was walking into spaces and rooms where I did not see individuals that looked like me. Mm-hmm. And so that really was my turning point of a career change. And that's when I decided to pursue clinical research as an industry that, which actually took off from there, which over the time set in several different roles in all different sectors of the industry, which led me all the way up to leadership.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So a couple of questions just came to mind while you were talking. When you were doing all of this traveling, at that point in your career, were you wife and mom?
That's a great question. I was not.
Yeah.
So the pivotal moment was the traveling, late nights, weekends, and so that was in the moment of the lifestyle of singleness where I didn't need flexibility.
Yeah. So we talked, in our conversation before this, and we talked about, my research as well kind of focuses on women in similar roles, right? And um, as what's the word I want to as forward thinking as we claim to be as a society, as modern or whatever you want to call it, the role of caring for the children typically still falls on the woman. The role of caring for the home typically still falls on the woman. And I think about, when you're building your career and we're like, yeah, we're traveling and we're doing this and no, I can stay, no problem. I can do all of these things, but we still have the desire to be wife and mom. When that kicks in, I think that's really a point of pivot for us. I talk about in my book as well how, I got to a point where I was like, I just can't do it all. I can't care for the house, care for the children, care for everybody at work, turn on at work, be the executive, do all of the things, because what gets lost is literally us,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you became wife, you became mom. How did that change your career?
So I realized that what worked before was null and void, and at that time, where once I worked in unstructured environments, I knew that I had to shift to structure,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to shift to creating boundaries. And so it actually forced me. I say it was those micro shifts where I began to integrate um, practicing of I would say energy mapping,
Mm.
if for lack of a better word, and um, began to become really aware of why was I feeling overwhelmed, and trying to really find the root cause of why I felt I was burnt out, I was tired, and what I thought was time management. I realized it wasn't time management. I was creating more for myself because I was still carrying all of the energy, all of the weight, the mental capacity, and over time, as I began to transition over into higher leadership roles, and I realized actually it was the point really where it was pivotal for me was during COVID. As all, I think I just believe that COVID really came in and really unmasked everyone of the reality of what was invisible task that we really couldn't see.
Yeah.
And at that time is where I realized that um, I cognitively I really wasn't processing or categorizing my energy as I should have been.
Mm. Yeah, I think COVID did a number on all of us, right?
Yes.
My children at the time were in very pivotal stages, but I think about myself and how I was like, I'm just gonna go home. I'm just gonna work from home. It's not a big deal, but it is when you're working from home. You have teenagers that are going to school from home. You have a spouse that is working from home, or in my case, a spouse who can't work because of the work that he does. And at the beginning of COVID, couldn't go into people's homes as a contractor, right? So now he's home. And I remember being in a meeting and my boss saying, "What is that noise? Who is that? Which one of you is it?" And I was like, "Oh God, that's the air compressor." And I was like, "I'm so sorry. That's the air compressor. I don't know what my husband is building, right?" And so I had to ask him to cut the air compressor off. But then all of a sudden, all of your you said it was unmasked. Everything just came rushing in, and it was all in the same space. There were no boundaries. There was not. I remember I could, if I didn't remember to cut my computer off, I would be upstairs laying in my bed and I could hear a Zoom call, and the anxiety was just like, who's on the Zoom, not the Zoom, the Teams. Who's on the Teams call? What do they want? What am I missing? And so I agree with you. I think 2020, when COVID hit, and then through that experience, a lot of us had no choice but to face what we may not have ever faced, is that we needed some help. We needed some help. We had put ourselves in these intersections that were, quite frankly, if, to use a traffic analogy, that we're in intersections that are literally gridlocked. And what do we do? And so you realized that you needed to map your energy different. What was the first thing that you did? Before we continue, if you've ever felt the pressure to perform, produce, and prove while carrying everything else, I wrote The Power of the Pause for you. It's a practical guide to leading with clarity instead of burnout, and it's available now, along with corner office apparel designed for women who mean business. Check the show notes for your link so you can get your copy or you can get your t-shirt. Oh, and if your organization is looking for a host, facilitator, or speaker who understands leadership and lived experience, you can book me directly at drebonystone.com. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
So essentially, when I go back to, and this is one thing I love to share here, when it really wasn't until I stepped into my leadership, I should say my research, is when I really had a reflection of over time of the things that I was not doing right. And I can say that. I can honestly, again, I can admit to myself to say there were some things that I was doing wrong that I could have done better, should I say, because I say many times we carry that guilt. And so we don't want to self-inflict blame or guilt on ourselves. However, we do want to acknowledge the areas of where we could have improved. And so one thing I would like to share, because during my research, my doctoral research, is really when I began to formulate a reflection over time, which crafted the outcome of how I believe that I will be able to, and currently to this day, to help other women, whether you're thinking about pursuing family or progressing in your career, but you're fearful of that family may hinder or offer challenges. This is a new framework or a new mindset shift that I like to share. But I'll say this, one of the things that I did discover, so while researching the integration and leadership, I realized that the traditional 9-to-5 workday is actually a historical artifact and of the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
And so, factories needed workers present at the same time to run the machinery. And then later railroads created the standardized time zones. So schedules could align nationally. And I listened to this talk from Cindy Clark, national leadership guru with human resources. And it was one of the pivotal moments where we say the modern workday was designed for factory production, not for complexity of the modern leadership, caregiving, or knowledge workers. And so when women feel the tension when we feel that tension between leadership roles and the life responsibilities part of that tension, it's structural.
Yeah.
It's structural because it goes back to the systems were never designed with integration in mind, and that's why we feel and felt the burnout.
We also, that's a great point. I think about like the educational system
Mm-hmm.
and, the time that kids are in school. And it was designed at a time where we needed kids home to help on the farms, right? You needed to be home
Yes.
early in the morning, you needed to be home certain times in the afternoon. And like, I don't need that right now, right? I don't need you to let my kids go. Whole pet peeve. I don't need you to let my kids go half, halfway through the day. What am I supposed to do with that? What in the world am I supposed to do with that if I have to work 9 to 5? The other thing for me personally, my brain is firing. Like
Mm-hmm.
you want to get the best of me, you don't get the best of me about 6 o'clock in the morning. Sometime between 5, 6, maybe 9 o'clock in the morning. I can't set up meetings at 9 o'clock I mean 6 o'clock in the morning. Um, and so, but I don't think we've done enough to reorganize, to your point, reorganize the workday
Mm-hmm.
around what we really need. I don't even think we've stopped to think about it. It's just like we work 9 to 5. And it's like, no, we don't have to. We don't have to work 9 to 5, you know?
Yes, right. And integration, it asks a different question. It asks us, how can your life work together instead of against you?
Yeah.
So again, we're it's that conflict that we're we will be forever battling until you get it. Of it's not meant to be. It's not meant to be structured that way. We actually have to have a mindset of integration. We have to find a way. It's not balance. It's actually you're integrating,
Yeah.
and there's a
Let
trade
me,
off.
let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
What made you pursue doctoral studies?
So in my time of research, and one of the things I knew that as a leader, an executive leader, and really to have an impact, I knew that I needed to transition into a knowledge expert on
Mm-hmm.
leadership, leading teams, building teams, organizational leadership. I knew that it could not, all of it couldn't, I could not pull all of this just from work experience. And so learning the foundations of theories and practices and frameworks and integrating it with the lived experiences,
Yes.
I felt that I would have a greater impact, um, not only as a professional, but also as um, society is changing, and what worked best for leadership practices back in the 2000s, it's no longer, it's null and void. We have to have an innovative mindset. We have to make room for new practices and new best practices. And so what I realized is that I wanted to have that knowledge base. And so that was actually one of the motivating factors that had me go back to pursue my doctorate.
Excuse me. Nice, nice. So, well, by the time you went back, because when did you finish?
I actually, December of 2025,
Yes.
my degree was conferred. Yes. Thank
Congratulations.
you.
So at that point, you were wife and mom.
Yes. At that
Yeah.
point, yes. At that point, yes.
Tell me or tell us what that was like to be wife, mom, executive, researcher, and going to school. Because
Mm.
it's a whole lot of us out there doing it.
So, one of the things I like to make a practice of when we think about um, mm, family and commitments. And for me, I set in a different framework as raising a neurodivergent child. And so this actually completely transformed um, not only how I understood leadership, but it taught me regulation is more powerful than control. And
Mm,
so I knew that flexibility is not a weakness. It's an intelligence because it means that you are aware. And then also I go into the portion of systems that must, we'll go systems that serve people. Systems must serve people, not the other way around. So I'll just go back to that. So I started to integrate my leadership practices in the workplace and at home. So it wasn't just I would turn a switch off and then I'm a different person. I continuously practice leadership mindset in the workplace and at home. And the reason being is because, again, we go back to it's not a balance, it's integration. So when I'm going to integrate, it will be around the clock integration. It's just that understanding, navigating the integration framework is really what it boiled down to. So um, we often reward endurance, right? But what parenting has taught me is sustainability, which requires attunement. And this meant that I became more empathetic. So in the home front, where giving grace to myself, my spouse, my child, it also integrated over into my leadership skills as well when I'm working with my teams. And anticipatory leadership, I'll say, is another item here where I have to understand variability. And when I say variability, I'm going to in energy processing. So meaning understanding, as you mentioned, where I'm most attentive, finding that peak hour where I'm most alert in the day so I can hit my heavy impact energy drainers task. And so that's for me, it's in the mornings. I'm at my best in the mornings. Afternoons, not so much. So therefore, I would shift my tasks, shift what I would need to do. I wouldn't schedule if I needed to have a meeting where I knew that it needed my undivided attention and full capacity. I wouldn't schedule it in the afternoon, and so, and that was for me. But also, I had to be, make myself aware of others. So it wasn't just as a leader, we are servant leaders, so it's not just me. I'm also thinking about others around me. So it's also making sure that their needs are met and making sure that where one may work well in the morning, another may not. So it's also integrating the compromise. So there were so many different leadership qualities that integrated with my home life and my work life to me that served a greater purpose. And it forced me it also forced me to confront guilt. I had to release it. I had to release the ideal. Excellent means availability. And now I define excellence as alignment.
I want our audience to just sit with that for a moment. There are a couple things that you mentioned that I just want to pull out. I think there are so many moms that are sitting with guilt, and the guilt weighs on you. My daughter did a great job of releasing me or allowing me to release myself from some guilt because I was trying to do all of it. I was at all of the events. I'm sitting down with 4 or 5 calendars. I'm figuring it out. I got my assistant helping me schedule things around school events and blah blah blah. And so my regular day is like 16 hours, and I'm trying to figure everything out. And at one point, I had a meeting run over, and because the meeting ran over, I was going to be late to a track meet. And so I'm texting my daughter, like, I'm coming. I hope I'll make it there before your race and blah, blah, blah. And she said, Mom, this isn't a big race. It's not that big a deal. I don't need you to be here. I just need you to be at, and she told me which races. She was like, this one's fine. And being who she is, she's like, I got this one won anyway. Don't worry about it, right? And I think sometimes we're trying to be things that we don't have to because we think that it's the expectation. And so I just want everybody to know if you're carrying the guilt, like Dr. Takisha said, let it go, find a way to let that guilt go. But I love you said your excellence went from being accessible, I think that's the word you used, to being aligned.
Yes, yes.
Those were your words, right? What does that look like? Because I think that's huge. Like everybody doesn't need access to you. It
Right.
definitely not all the time.
Yeah, yes. And it goes to, I'll say, it's the energy. I like to rephrase the energy savers. So it's
Mm.
creating those boundaries. Um, and in the best way that I can actually offer a visual here is calendar audits. So when we go from different seasons, we will transition through different seasons in our life, and it's really where everyone has to understand. You want to understand what season are you in. So that's the question. That is the question. What season am I in present day? And once you realize what season you are in, then you're able to understand how do I integrate the variables around me to work together and not against each other. So
Mm.
that's where I transition into micro shifts of calendar audits. So I'll look at my calendar. If it's not aligned with my current season, then guess what? I'm renegotiating. I'm moving things around. I'm crossing items off. I'm saying no. So again, it's really having that realistic overview of what's going on in my life. What season am I in, and removing those items that may be distractors, or what I say. And then energy mapping. Again, we go back to the energy mapping where we're tracking where you feel most cognitively clear, where your mind is clear, and removing those individual tasks. I go back to delegating,
Mm.
delegation. So um, if you have to outsource for help, then may it be. There's so many different ways of creativity that comes into play, and if it's a financial constraint, then that's when we ask for help. We ask for help from our loved ones, our friends, our families. If we say we have a village, we want to bring our village in. We want to make sure we're a community. You're building, and you have. And here's the thing: not everyone understands when we say community and village. If you don't have one, create one. And when I say create one, meaning that you're going to have individuals in your life who are there for support, and it's not all financial. This is going to be from a mental capacity standpoint. This is going to be from a support. So if I need to call, for instance, I'll make an example. My mother, she's retired, and she's flying out this weekend, to be exact, to care for my son during spring break. And it wasn't what I realized that I needed to drop the ball and start to ask for help is when my stress levels reduced. And so it's during those pivotal moments where you're using your village, you're creating your village, but making sure those people that are supportive, they're there for support. Um, so it's finding the people that will be an impact, and again, not a not a hindrance or another challenge where you're begging someone or you're asking someone for help and they're not for sure if they want to. You want to have those individuals who really genuinely have an interest in wanting to be a part of your village. And for me, and for anyone, I just said we cannot do this alone. We're not built to do this alone.
Do you find it interesting? I'm just going to speak from the perspective of a Black woman, right? That's all I got.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find it interesting that many of us, especially high functioning or high achieving women, find it difficult to ask for help, yet we are the help givers to everybody else? No one has a problem asking us for help, and we're helping. Um, I just find that interesting. I don't know. You and I had a conversation. I think it was last week about outsourcing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just share my story. We had a conversation about outsourcing and me recognizing, like, look, I can't keep this house clean. I need help. I need help. I can't do it. And so if I can, I need to hire someone to do that, right? But still, there were certain parts of the house that I shared that my husband was like, I don't want them in, right? And so there's still these things that are very difficult because I don't have the time to get them done, and I just really need them outsourced. in order to get it done, so that I don't have that sitting, because whether if you're not getting it done, it's sitting there. It's just sitting
Yes.
there waiting on you to do it, right? And you're thinking about it. It's a weight on you, and so I think it's so important. And what you said is we gotta have communities. You got to build a community. They have to be communities that you can lean on, and then there's nothing wrong with saying, if you're in a space to be able to do it, there's nothing wrong with saying like, hey, I'm gonna have this year's yard cleanup done by someone else. I'm gonna have somebody come by and clean up the yard, or I'm gonna have somebody come in once a week and help me in the house, because I can't find the time to do it all. I think it is okay to, I know, not just think, I know it's okay to do. So
Yes.
thank you for sharing that.
And I'll add one item here. Where we speak of family and community as well, we also want to have those individuals to believe in our potential.
Yeah.
So when we speak of, right, the support systems, we also want the individuals to also understand our goals and where we're trying to move in life, and believe in that, believe in the dream as well, because it will help. It will help with the support. Again, when I mentioned about the support systems, they matter, because if you have a group of individuals who believe in your potential, they can help you maintain your perspective during difficult times, and they will step in and say, hey, don't worry about that, I'll help you, or here's a suggestion. So you want to share also with your village what it is that you're trying to achieve or want to achieve as well.
Yeah, I think that's huge. That's huge. Okay, so walk us through. I know you've done a lot of work, in 2025. Again, congratulations. Your degree was conferred on you. But out of that work, there are some things that you are offering to the world, to women, to make things better for us, to allow us to move forward in these spaces, right? And so
Mhm.
you've kind of created something that we can use. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about what that is, how it can be used, where it can be found, all of those things.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, the mom integration playbook. So, my playbook is actually available on my website, which is drtakisharobinson.com. And essentially, the playbook, it's a research informed, it's real world guide development for professionals. So this is where we're speaking of navigating leadership. We have caregivers, and your personal sustainability is actually the root of where we're solving problems.
Mm.
Personal sustainability. And so this was grounded in doctoral research, where I interviewed executive level working mothers, specifically in the pharmaceutical industry, and it was on their perceptions of transformational leadership strategies to reduce turnover intentions and work life conflict. And so, where I transition with the mom integration playbook is I created a framework. And in this framework, we go beyond the work life balance narratives. And I move into, rather than asking individuals to, where we go, to optimize and absorb the strain, the stress, we're offering a realistic approach here. And this realistic approach is to designing decisions, energy, and capacity over time. And when I say over time, is because the playbook is designed, it's not designed, let me go back. It's designed to be read non-linear. And that means that
Mm.
you can revisit as often as you need to,
Okay.
as your circumstances and your seasons evolve. So it's meant for you to go back to once you switch, transition through different seasons.
Okay.
And your readers will engage here with the frameworks during periods of transition or expansion. So as you're going through different transitions, or if you have an obstacle or a challenge that may be, that's where you're able to use the practices that are inside the playbook to help you the mindset shift. And while others return to a specific section, when navigating increased capacity or responsibility, There's no prescribed pace or sequence. So, like I said, it's you will revisit as often as you need, but it's also when I go back to understanding the work is intended to support thoughtful application over time. So we'll cover time, meeting the readers where you're at, rather than imposing an I say an idolized process. So it's meeting you where you're at, but it's for you to create or for you to know what season you're in, and then you make the application.
Gotcha. Who is, let me just say, who do you want to pick up this book? Like, how do I know, or this framework, how do I know it's for me? How do I know I need to go to your website and I need to get it?
Yeah, so this is for, like, oh my goodness, it's for the working professional mother, first and foremost. So, we cannot forget, we're sustainability, working moms. And so this will be for a professional working mother, carrying layers of responsibilities and roles. This will be for caregivers navigating a significant transition. So, as we mentioned, we have caregivers who take on responsibilities of their loved ones or others, while also assuming a very high impact role. And for individuals that are wanting to seek an alternative approach that assumes unlimited capacity. When I say that, meaning that anyone that's wanting to take a new approach on life, where we see the articles, work-life balance, and but yet when you try to apply those practices, you still feel the same.
Because they don't work.
Exactly.
They don't work.
Yes.
Is there, I gotta ask, you mentioned it, and I hope it's okay to talk about, you mentioned raising a neurodivergent child. Are there things that speak specifically to those that may be in that situation or similar situations to help? Yeah, to help in those situations. Is there something there specifically for them, or
Yes. Yes.
okay?
So I do have a section that is dedicated just for individuals navigating the neurodivergent journey.
Okay.
And it definitely offers, and I'll say this because it's not so much best practices, because it's a very individualized journey that everyone will go on, and there's no cookie cutter or blueprint. But what I do have to offer is a lived experience perspective that I share. And this is built upon practices not only from myself, but from others, community coming together. And if anything, it's a reassurance to know that we are forever evolving. Every day we're learning, we will learn something new, and that your child is becoming, and so are you. And
Yes.
it's basically to strip away the guilt and to receive and accept what is, and to move forward.
I love that. I love that. I think it is so important, just um, in life in general, no matter what you're experiencing, to know that you are becoming, right? I think that's why who I call my forever first lady. I think that's why she called her book "Coming," right?
Becoming.
And I think also just sharing stories is
Yes.
important so that people know they are not the only one. They are not alone. I think back to when I first launched my book, The Power of the Pause, and I shared it, and people started reading it. First, I had to get the nerve to share it, right? But people started reading it, and I could not believe the number of people who reached out to me, and not just the number, but the types of folks, the folks that appeared to have it all together, the folks that you just never dreamed were experiencing some of these things, that would reach out and say, you know, by chapter 2, I was in tears because I felt like you were writing my story.
Mm.
I finally felt seen. I finally felt heard. And so I thank you for sharing, because I'm sure there is someone who will finally, say, I finally feel seen. I finally feel
Mhm.
heard. Someone understands. And it gives you the courage to continue moving forward, and to know where you can go to get resources and that type of thing. So I thank you for sharing that. So listen, what is next? You've done so many things. You got so much going on. What's next for you? What can people expect? Where do they find you other than your website? What else is going on?
So really, I have a passion now is to spread the knowledge, spread the research, spread. I would like to be a vessel of this. Oh my goodness, of this work that I completed, and so that means coming on to platforms such as yours, with podcasts, conferences, speaking engagements, and so I really want to communicate a message. And that message is, we want to understand that, our leadership is not about permission, it's about preparation. And when you've done the work and you develop the expertise, you belong in those spaces. Um, that should help me stop questioning whether I belonged, and really it helped me to start focus on how I could lead effectively. And so I want to share that with the world. And if I also can also offer another tidbit here, we don't wait for validation, right? So we don't wait for validation before stepping into leadership opportunities. If anything, if you've done the work and you've built the skills, you deserve a seat at that table. And when we transition from you've built that community, you've built the the you built your community, you built your village, you will start to use those individuals to help you move into your next phase, your next season of life. And for me, motivation, it came from remembering why I started. So if you're ever at a moment where you feel discouraged and you're not for sure and you're wondering, why am I here? You just have to go back and reach deep and to understand, why did you start?
Yeah,
And reevaluate it if you need to.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. Well, listen, you are in a very exciting time in your career, just finishing up your doctoral studies and defending your dissertation, and all of the new things that will unfold in this phase. I'm just really excited for you,
Thank you.
looking to track your journey. There are only so many of us out there, so we got to stick together, right? So looking to track your journey, and I see big things in your future. But before we go, I got to ask you what I ask all my guests, and that is, if as you look back over your life, if someone approaches you, and listen, this ain't that far off, because I've had two guests already tell me that people have already approached them. Someone approaches you and says, "Hey, we want to create a movie about your life. What would you call that movie? And if you know who would play you, who would it be?"
Wow. Okay. I like this question. Oh goodness. So we're in the framework of integration, transformational. I would have to say, so the title
Mhm.
would be designing the life you lead.
Designing the life you lead. Okay.
Yes. So, and then I'll have Regina King as playing my lead role. And I say that because for me, Regina, she just she brings grace, strength, um, authenticity. She's she's very authentic in her work. When I say that she plays many characters, I realize how she has a very unique talent, because I didn't realize how many different characters she played off screen as
Yes.
voiceovers. And so to me, that just speaks volumes of adaptability, flexibility. So my title, so again, Designing the Life You lead actress Regina King.
I love it. I love
My
it.
journey has been about learning. Learning that success isn't always simply what you chase. It's something you intentionally design.
I love that. And listen, I love your choice in Regina King because yes, she is she's a bad girl in front of the camera. She's a bad girl with voiceovers, but she's a bad girl behind the camera, right?
Yes.
Bringing things to life. And so, yes. So Miss Regina King, if you stumble upon this episode and you would like to know more, you want to play Dr. Takisha Robinson, I'm sure she would love to have you in her life story, Designing the Life You Lead. I
Yes.
absolutely have enjoyed talking with you today. I appreciate you being here. And for everyone who is listening, we'll drop all the links below. But if you could take anything away from this, I just ask that you take away from this that you're enough to stop for a moment, or as I like to say, to pause and take a look at your life and design the life that you want to lead. So until next time, you know what to do. Keep spreading that black girl magic on everything you do. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you for spending time with me today. If this episode spoke to you, share it with another Black woman who needs this reminder. And don't forget to subscribe. You'll find links to my book, apparel, and speaking information in the show notes. Until next time, lead with intention and give yourself permission to pause. And you know what else? Keep spreading that black girl magic on everything you do.